Mark this down, not because I am asking you to count days or build anxious anticipation around a calendar, but because what is moving toward you right now has attached itself to a specific point in time with a clarity that I do not encounter often. And when that kind of clarity comes through, I have learned to pay attention to it. The 16th carries something for you, and I want to walk you through exactly what that something is, layer by layer, because what came through today was not a single message, it was a convergence. Multiple threads of your life, threads that have been moving independently for a while now, all approaching a point where they intersect. And that intersection point has a date attached to it. Stay with me, because by the end of this reading, you are going to understand not just what is coming, but why it is coming now, and why everything that has happened up until this point has been leading here. Let me start with what I felt first, because it set the tone for everything else that followed. Acceleration. That is the word that arrived before anything else. Not a gentle shift, not a quiet, gradual unfolding acceleration. The specific feeling of something that has been moving slowly, perhaps so slowly that you barely registered the motion at all, suddenly picking up speed in a way that becomes impossible not to notice. You have been in a season of slow movement, Virgo. I feel this clearly. A season where things have been happening, where growth has been occurring, where pieces have been falling into place, but where the pace of all of it has felt almost imperceptible, like watching a plant grow. You know it is happening. You can see, if you compare now to months ago, that something has changed. But in any given moment, the movement itself is invisible. That invisible movement is about to become visible all at once. And the 16th is the point where the acceleration becomes undeniable. I want to explain why specific dates sometimes carry this kind of energetic weight, because I think understanding the mechanism will help you trust what is being shown to me. Most of the time, the unfolding of our lives does not happen on a schedule that aligns with calendar dates in any meaningful way. Things happen when they happen, influenced by countless factors, most of which have nothing to do with which day of the month it is. But occasionally, multiple different threads, different processes that have been developing on their own separate timelines happen to reach their respective points of culmination around the same time. And when that convergence occurs, it can feel like the universe handed you a date. Not because the date itself has mystical properties, but because that is simply when several different things, each moving at their own pace, all arrived at once. That is what I am feeling for you around the 16th. Not one thing reaching completion, multiple things arriving together, creating a concentration of energy and movement that is going to feel different from the ordinary rhythm of your days. Let me speak to what these different threads actually are, because I am feeling several distinct ones and I want to walk through each. The first thread is something you have been working toward, something that has required sustained effort over a period of time, effort that has not always felt like it was producing visible results. This could be related to your work, a project, a goal you have been quietly pursuing without much external validation along the way. Whatever form it takes specifically, the energy around it has the quality of culmination, of something that has been building toward a point of recognition or completion, and that point is very close. The second thread is relational. There is movement happening in a connection, or perhaps in multiple connections, that has been developing in the background of your life. Something that has not yet been named directly or that has existed in a kind of holding pattern is approaching a point where it shifts into something clearer, more defined, less ambiguous than it has been. The third thread is internal. This one is harder to describe because it is not about external circumstances at all. It is about you, about a shift in how you see yourself, how you understand your own capacity, your own worth, your own readiness for what is ahead. This internal shift has been happening gradually, the kind of growth that does not announce itself with fanfare, but that accumulates quietly until one day you realize you are simply a different person than you were before. All three of these threads are converging, and the 16th is where that convergence becomes something you can feel, see, and respond to in your actual life. I want to go deeper into each of these because I think the details matter, and I do not want to leave this reading at the level of generalities when the energy coming through is so much more specific than that. Let me start with the first thread, the one related to effort and culmination. There is something you have put real energy into, real hours, real attention, possibly something that from the outside might not have looked like much was happening. The kind of work that happens in private that does not produce immediate visible results, that requires you to keep going on faith, that the effort is accumulating into something even when the evidence of that accumulation is not yet visible. Around the 16th, this changes. Something becomes visible, a result, a response, a piece of evidence that the effort has been producing exactly what it was supposed to produce, even during all the time when it did not look like anything was happening. For some of you, this is going to come through in a professional context, a response to something you submitted, applied for, or put forward, a piece of news related to your work that confirms something you have been hoping for without fully allowing yourself to expect it. For others, this is more personal, something you have been working on for yourself, a habit, a practice, a way of being that you have been cultivating, reaches a point where you can feel the difference it has made. Not because anyone tells you, but because you simply notice in a moment around this time that you are operating differently than you were before, and that noticing itself is significant. Now let me speak to the second thread, the relational one. I feel a specific person in this energy, someone whose presence in your life has had a quality of being unresolved, not necessarily in a negative sense, but in the sense of something that has not yet been fully defined. A connection where there has been warmth, where there has been something real, but where neither of you has fully named what that something is or where it is heading. Around the 16th, this changes. Not necessarily through a dramatic event, though for some of you it might be exactly that, but through a shift in clarity, a moment or a series of moments close together where what has been ambiguous becomes less so, where something that has been unspoken finds its way into words, or where behavior shifts in a way that removes doubt about where things stand. If you have been wondering about someone, wondering where you stand, wondering whether what you feel is reciprocated, or whether you have been reading more into a situation than is actually there, this is the period where that wondering gets an answer. Not necessarily the answer you have been hoping for in every case, but an answer. Clarity, even when it is not the clarity you wanted, is still a gift because it allows you to stop spending energy on uncertainty and start directing that energy toward whatever comes next. Does this feel like it is connecting to something specific in your life right now, Virgo? A project you have been working on quietly or a connection that has felt unresolved? Let me know in the comments. I want to know what is coming up for you as you hear this. Now let me speak to the third thread, the internal one, because I think this is actually the most significant of the three, even though it is the least tangible. You have been changing, not in a way that you have necessarily been tracking consciously, but in the deeper sense of who you are becoming through everything you have walked through recently. The challenges, the waiting, the moments of doubt, the quiet persistence, all of it has been shaping something in you, a kind of resilience, a kind of self-trust, a kind of clarity about what you want and what you will and will not accept that did not exist in quite the same form before. This internal shift has been happening gradually enough that you might not have fully registered it, but around the 16th, something is going to happen that makes this shift visible to you. Not necessarily a dramatic realization, though it could be that. More likely, a moment, a situation, a piece of feedback from someone that shows you, almost like looking in a mirror, who you have become. And what you are going to see is someone more capable, more grounded, more ready than the version of yourself that existed before this period of growth began. This is significant because it changes how you approach everything else that is converging around this time. The opportunity, the relational clarity, all of it lands differently when it lands on someone who has grown into being ready for it versus someone who is still operating from an earlier, less developed version of themselves. You are the ready version now, and the 16th is in part about you recognizing that inhale. I want to speak to what this convergence is going to feel like, because I think preparing for the feeling of it is as important as understanding the content of it. When multiple significant things happen around the same time, even when all of them are positive, the experience of it can be overwhelming. Not in a bad way, but in the sense of a lot happening at once, requiring processing, requiring adjustment, requiring you to integrate new information and new circumstances faster than you might be used to. You might feel around this time a kind of emotional intensity that surprises you. Things that you have been waiting for, hoping for, working toward, all arriving in a relatively short window can produce a flood of feeling, relief, excitement, possibly even some disorientation, the specific disorientation of someone whose external circumstances are changing faster than their internal sense of normal has had time to catch up to. This is normal. It is actually a sign that what is happening is real and significant. If something this convergent happened and you felt nothing, that would be more concerning than feeling a lot. Let yourself feel whatever comes. Do not rush to process it into something tidy and understood. Let the fullness of what is arriving actually land, even if landing means feeling more than you are used to feeling in a short period of time. I want to speak to something else that I feel is important, which is what to do in the days leading up to this convergence. Stay present. I know that sounds simple, but I mean it specifically. Do not spend the time between now and the 16th in a state of anxious anticipation, constantly checking, constantly wondering if today is the day something happens. That kind of anticipatory anxiety actually disconnects you from your present life, from the relationships and responsibilities and small moments that are happening right now, in favor of a future that has not arrived yet. Instead, continue living, continue showing up for your days as they are. The convergence is going to happen regardless of how much attention you pay to it in advance. And the version of you that is most ready to receive it is the version that is grounded in their actual life, not the version that has mentally already left their current life in favor of a future date. If anything unusual happens in the days leading up to this, small signs, synchronicities, conversations that feel meaningful, let yourself notice them without overanalyzing them. They are simply confirmation that things are moving in the direction this reading describes, but the noticing should be light, curious, not anxious. As I bring this reading toward its close, I want to speak to the larger significance of what this convergence represents. This is not simply a good day or a good week in isolation. It is a marker, a point where the season you have been in, the one characterized by quiet effort, unresolved questions, and gradual internal growth, gives way to a new season. One characterized by visibility, by clarity, by the lived experience of being the person you have been quietly becoming. The transition between seasons is not always smooth. Sometimes it is gradual enough that you barely notice it happening. But sometimes, and I feel this is one of those times, the transition is marked, concentrated, identifiable, a point you can look back on later and say, that is when things started to feel different. The 16th is that point for you. Whatever specifically unfolds, whatever form the opportunity, the clarity, and the self-recognition take in your particular life, the underlying truth is the same. You are entering something new, and the work you have already done, the effort you have already put in, the growth you have already undergone, has prepared you completely for what this new chapter requires. If this reading resonated with you today, please share it with a Virgo who needs to hear this, and leave me a comment below. Tell me what you are feeling as you sit with this. Tell me which of the three threads, the effort, the relationship, or the internal shift, feels most alive for you right now. I read every single word you share. Every story matters to me, and I carry your energy with care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo, stay grounded, stay present, and get ready to see clearly and unmistakably just how far you have come. It is closer than it has ever been.